Okay, just about getting there with this command group. With the standard bearer and musician. And I'd mentioned in the last video that I would come back and do a little bit of filming when I get to the banner pole and the yellow in particular. You can see the rest of the miniatures pretty much there. Got the skin, the face and hands to do yet, and then maybe one or two other things, but in general we're just about there now. For the yellow, it's the full Citadel system, which I find works really well, gives you a really nice finish, just so you see the range that I'm using for this. And first of all, I've got some of this Averland Sunset, and this really is just about getting some of the original yellow back after using the Casandora yellow shade, which darkens everything down. And you can see that I'm using a small brush to do this. Also make sure to use the wet palette when I'm doing these final layers and highlights, just to get the paint a bit smoother. It's a bit easier to work with rather than painting direct from the pot, or just mixing up a little bit of paint and water on the cutting mat. It's maybe better just to use the wet palette at this stage. And I will turn the miniature around to suit the direction that I want to paint in, just so I can get the point of the brush in the direction I want it. You've got to be quite careful now handling the miniature so that you're not risking rubbing the paint off. It can be tricky. That's one of the advantages of using some sort of holder for the miniature. It means that you're not directly touching the paint that you've been spending all this time on. And then it's onto the Uriel yellow. And this is where you're going to start getting the brightness in the yellow just through layering up. And you're not wanting to cover everything that you've just painted, you kind of want to leave some of the darker tone. And you do of course need to keep washing your brush just as you work. Try and stop the paint drying. Okay, so that's one pass of the Uriel yellow, and I'll go ahead and do another pass and build up the brightness. Okay, and onto the last one now, the flash gets yellow. And this one I'm going to try and use a bit more sparingly. On edges, like that. Hopefully that gets picked up on the camera. And again, you can do that a couple of times if you want to really push the colour. Okay, so essentially that's that done. If you want, with a little bit of white mixed with the yellow, you can come in and just do a wee little dot. Best to be quite subtle with that. Okay, so that completes the banner pole. That yellow now finished. Really nice to do the yellow rather than just using gold. And interest in the original army books and White Dwarf, where you see these miniatures, they actually use a yellow paint for things like this, and then keep gold for other areas. But you'll see yellows like that when they're painting ultramarines quite often, and it really is nice. Okay, so I've got some more of the white scar paint, and I was just going to do a little bit of highlighting on our white items. Already done the clothes, the sleeves, etc. I've done those already, but on this trumpet there's this nice wing design built into it. And what you see there is just the result of the original white painting technique that I used in the very first video, where I used contrast paints to get this pretty much ready to go effect. But you can just do a little bit of highlighting. As I say, the first video in this series showed that mix of contrast paints. Like that. And we can do a little bit here and there maybe on the rest of the horn. Don't want to do too much. Just pick out a few highlights here and there. And this is also a good moment to fix any of your whites elsewhere that you've maybe got some paint onto. Miniature's got such a strong silhouette, this one. Great sculpt. I think this is Jez Goodwin. Okay, so that's it for the white. doing some work now on the skin and the faces. Try and get the light in as best I can. So I've got Kislev flesh, which works as a really good just base tone on top of the Gilman flesh contrast paint. So with that you can come in and just smooth out any areas that you want to smooth out. Blends in nicely with what's there already. First thing I'm going to do is just use a little bit of a warmer tone on the bottom lip. And it doesn't matter if you go over or make a mess, you can always fix it. Like that. Just improves it in some way. And then you can always neaten it up. And with the helmets on these characters, in fact all the elves I've done so far, there's not really too much in the way of a face exposed for painting. The highlight colour is flayed one flesh, which is a nice step up from the Kislev. So you can just do a bit of a highlight on the nose. And on the chin. And then if you've got a good point in the brush, you can just run some down the side. Like that. Okay, in the eyes I've got some pallid witch flesh, which is a off-white. I'm not going to use white for the eyes. And we've already got a bit of a dark outline round the eyes that was provided by that contrast paint. So we just want to add in a little bit of white, or off-white, into the eyeball. Like that. You can see the hands are also done now. But I'm using a bit of the flayed one flesh just up on the knuckles. Just to help give the impression of the hand gripping tightly. And then it just comes down to indicating some colour in the eye. Again, I don't use black for that. The first guy here, I used a bit of blue for the eyes. So this one, I might use some green. This is why it's handy having the wet palette, because you can always just come back to a different colour when you need one. Okay, so that's quite tricky to film, because you do have to get in quite close to see what you're doing. But that's my preference anyway, to just use a colour rather than black on the eyes. Just wanted to bring you back in at this stage. So the miniatures are painted, bases are now done, and the very last step is bringing the gems to life. It's always a really good step. Just using the gloss varnish, making sure to get all the way around. Really enjoyable stage. Seeing the gems get that sparkle. And then the final gem up on the banner pole. So that's the unit command now finished, with the addition of the standard bearer and the musician. I'm happy how they've come out. They're in keeping with what was shown in the army book, which was my main aim. Spent a bit of extra time on the armour and putting in some a bit more detail into the colours, but there's obviously one thing missing, which would be an actual banner to go on the banner pole. So I guess that will be one of the next tasks, and I can maybe look at that in the next video. So thanks for watching.